Welcome everyone to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. Are you interested in how to turn 10 bucks into $1,000 on eBay? Well, we have got a show for you that I think is going to help answer this question. So I'm glad you're here today. This is going to be a cool show. I kind of thought about this topic earlier today, and I just thought this would be something cool to talk about. So hopefully, we'll have a lot of fun with this subject and so on. I know these videos are always very interesting because people always want to think about, well, how can I turn, how can I make this amount of money, X, in this amount of time for this amount of investment? And that's kind of what this show's about. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat all right. It's supposed to be live here, but we've been practicing with some new technology as of late. So we just want to make sure that it's working okay. Glad to see you guys are coming in. Sorry there was no reminder today. I'm not really sure why there wasn't a reminder for this show. Still kind of figuring out a few things on this new thing. So hi to everybody in the chat. This is a live show, so there are people chatting as we go, and it's going to be cool. So how many of you, by a virtual show of hands in the chat, have a specific income goal for eBay on what you want to make in a given month? Maybe I don't know what it is. You can talk about what it is or not. But, let me know in the chat if you have a specific goal that you're like, yeah, Prof, I want to make, I've got in my mind, I want to make this amount or that amount. And if not, that's okay too. It's not like it's a, it's not like it's a quiz. But, I was just kind of curious what people are trying to do and what your objectives are. Yeah, I have had various specific goals over the months and years. And, I realize that those goals can be a little misleading because, say your goal is to make $500 a month on eBay and you make $490. Was that a failure? No. Should you beat yourself up over it? No. Should you jump up and down, throw a tantrum? I don't think so. And I think there's just all these different goals that we have. But I know that for a lot of people, they kind of have, we're going to turn on the chat here too, they kind of have this idea of I want to make this amount of money to kind of make it make sense. I'm doing other things. I work at a job. Maybe I want to quit my job. Maybe I want to go full time onto eBay. I don't know what your goal is, and it doesn't really matter what your particular goal is, but I think whatever your goal is that you just need to be able to have a way to get to it, right? I mean, your income goal is a result of your actions to get there. It's not the other way around. People are like, oh, I achieved a goal of making $1,000 or $10,000. Well, you did things that allowed you to get that goal. The goal wasn't the actions. You had to take actions, right? So, somebody asked, what time frame am I asking? It's up to you, Clarence Ninja. I mean, whatever time frame you think works for you. But I thought it would be kind of cool today to talk about a very specific goal with a very specific strategy with a very specific expected outcome. So I'm going to say expected outcome because I'm going to tell you something, guys. One thing I've learned about eBay is that you cannot project exactly what you're going to do in volume. You can get close. You're going to be within a range given certain factors usually, but sometimes it's just not what you thought it was going to be or was more than you thought it was going to be. And I hear resellers all the time will say in chats or on Facebook or so on, they'll say, oh, today was a great sales day. And people ask them, what'd you do different? They're like, I don't know. Or today was a terrible sales day. What'd you do different? I don't know. So I think that a lot of times we get caught up in the day-to-day, any one particular day. But I think there is some ways that you can increase your chances for getting a certain goal, whatever it is, hitting a certain number, getting to a certain level. And that's all I'm going to say about this today. This is a strategy you could use. I guess I wrote a good clickbaity title when I said $10 into $1,000, but I really meant that. I started thinking about it. It's if you only took 10 bucks how could you turn that $10 into $1,000, and how long would it take you to do it? Like, that's the key, right? Because if I told you I've got a system, which I don't, but if I told you I have a system for turning $10 into $1,000, you might be like, cool, but it's going to take you 5 years to do it. Well, that's kind of a long time. So it's not just the goal, it's not just the outcome, it's also how long it takes you to get there and what you got to do to get it. So we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to lay out a strategy. Now I'm going to say a couple things about this strategy. First of all, this strategy presupposes that, and we're going to do a screen share in a moment, it presupposes that you're going to sell clothing, all right? Because that's probably what you're going to sell in this case. Now, it doesn't have to be clothing, but that helps. It also presupposes that you can find items to sell that weigh a pound or less, because your shipping costs could be first class. In this case, we're going to talk about a free shipping model using first class shipping. All right, so I hope, oh, sorry, there's a little bug flying around here. It's driving me crazy. So hopefully that will, I mean, I know some of you guys are going to say, well, I don't want to sell clothing. I can't find things that weigh under a pound consistently. I get that. But I think in a lot of metropolitan areas, you either have bin stores, thrift stores, yard sales, estate sales, garage sales, places where you can get clothing really cheaply, or you can get other items really cheaply. So just suffice it to say that we are presupposing some certain, we have some certain premises here that may or may not be true in your situation, but I think they're true for a lot of people in a lot of different situations. So we're going to jump right into it. So here's our objective. Our objective is to take $10, all right, and turn that into $1,000 a month revenue on eBay. $1,000 a month or more revenue on eBay. So how can we do it in a way that, you know, sort of makes sense here? All right, so first thing I'm going to show you is that if you have a beginning bankroll of $10, then you can buy you could buy 10 $1 items. You know, that's 10 items, $1 each. Now, where can you get $1 each items, all right? Well, like I said, bin stores are great. Estate sales, garage sales are great. Those are always great places. Lots of places, estate sales, even you know, people just give away clothing, for instance, in a lot of cases. But we want to look for clothing here that is under a pound in weight, which is going to disqualify some things. It's going to disqualify jeans, for instance, by the way. It's going to disqualify it's going to disqualify a lot of things that really, like sweaters, coats. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller for you guys. There we go. And it's going to disqualify shoes. It's going to disqualify anything that weighs more than a pound. But let's say you can find these items. So your objective is buy these 10 items and then list these 10 items in the first month. Now, listing 10 items is not a lot of items, guys, and a lot of people can do that in one day very easily. So after you've listed these 10 items, your hope here, and you're going to list these for an average of $15 with free shipping. Your hope here is that you're going to sell 30% of these in a given month, which with 10 items listed would be 3. All right? So you're going to sell 3 items. You're going to get, and those 3 items are going to sell for $15. And then after your selling cost, or after your fees and your shipping costs, you're going to be down to, you're going to have $28 left of that original $45 that you made in sales volume. Now, a couple things here. Couple things. I know some of you are going to say, well, I'm not going to necessarily sell 30%. I might not sell 3 my first month. You may not even sell any. Then again, you might sell 5. I think selling 30% of your inventory when they're priced very reasonably and within the market within a month is not unreasonable. There's plenty of people who have done it, and even better, it's basically a 1% sell-through per day. And obviously when you only have 10 items, you can't sell, 1% of an item. But I think selling 30% of your items in a given month is not an unreasonable expectation, assuming, again, you're making good listings, you're putting up good photos, you're writing good titles, you're doing all the things that it takes to be successful, okay? So that's month one, and that doesn't look like much. You've only got 28 bucks in the bank in your PayPal account after you did that. But watch what's going to happen here, guys, in month number 2, and where it gets a little more interesting. So in month 2, we now have 28 bucks that we have in our bankroll, and we're going to buy 28 more items. Now, we still have 7 items left from last month that we didn't sell. So when we list those 28 items, now it got a little more serious now. You're going to have to list about 1 item a day. That got a little bit, more time consuming. But once you list those 28 items at $15 average selling price for free shipping, and we're assuming basically about a $3.50 cost for shipping here, guys. Now you're going to have 35 items listed. You should sell around 11 of those. Now I'm rounding here some guys on the math because it doesn't make sense to talk about fractions. But if you sell 11 of those 35, you're going to have $165 in revenue at the end of month number 2. Now, after fees and shipping costs and so on, you're going to have about 97 bucks left. All right? So now we see that after month number 2, you've started to escalate your business quite a bit. And I don't think most people would have a problem listing 10 items in a month or even listing, 28 items in a month. That's not a crazy amount. But, to each their own. And I understand some people might like, I can't list items that fast. It'll just take me forever. I get it. But we're assuming too you're going to get better and better at this. Now, month number 3 is where it really starts to get serious, and it gets difficult. I'm not going to lie here. Month number 3 is a challenge because you've got to list a lot more items. So let's check it out. Month number 3, we started with 97 bucks in our bankroll. $97. Now you got to go find 97 items, basically 100 items. Now that's going to be a little trickier, guys, but again, if you have bin stores, you absolutely could do this. If you hit the yard sales and estate sales and garage sales at different times of the year, depends on where you live, then now you should be able to find 97 items in a month. That is really not as many as it sounds. 97 items that will sell for 15 bucks each. And you already had some items left over, so now you should be at about 121 items. I think it's actually more than that now that I'm really looking at it, but I believe that's right. So now you're going to sell around 37 of those. You should have total revenue of $555. We are halfway to our goal of making 1,000 bucks in 1 month. And then after your fees and shipping, you should have $335 left to reinvest. So now after 3 months, you're 90 days in, you're now already grossing 500, 600 bucks a month, and you've got some cash in the bank. Now, one thing I want to make very clear here, guys, you cannot be pulling money out of this business and continue that growth trajectory. Every dollar you pull out is one more item you cannot buy. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, what about taxes and so on? I don't know your tax situation, and I'm not a tax expert, and I'm not about to sit here and tell you, well, save this amount, do this, do. Okay, well, you got taxes. I get it. We all have taxes, right? But taxes are, that's not something I can really counsel you on, and you're going to have to figure that on your own. Just know that you may have tax burden. So cover that with your CPA accountant, whoever does your taxes, whatever you guys do. Totally up to you guys to handle your own taxes, all right? Month number 4. Are you excited? Are you ready? This is where it gets serious, and this is where it's all going to happen. And when I was talking to Karin about this subject today, I said, I think you could do this in 4 months. I think you could ramp up from $10 to $1,000 a month, from a $10 start to $10 to $1,000 a month in revenue in 4 months. And it turns out I was right, because we start this month with $335. We buy now you got to buy $335 items. All right, that got real serious. Now I know this is the point of the program where people are going to say, well, I can't buy that many in a month. I understand that. This is where you've got to buy in bulk potentially. You've got to think about outlets and stores like that, or thrift stores that run sales. You've got to be picking up items. I mean, that's a lot of items, guys. It's like 78, it's like 80 items a week, more or less. So this is a big challenge. Don't get me wrong. But if you can accomplish it, then now after, and get those listed, which is also another big accomplishment, now you're going to look to sell about 119 items for a total revenue of $1,785. Now that's pretty exciting. After fees and shipping, you are left with $1,097 in your PayPal account. Congratulations, you are making $1,000 a month on eBay. Simple, right? Now, I know that there's a lot of people out there who will say, hey, buying and listing 335 items in a month is a challenge. And you know what? You are correct. I would highly recommend that if you have a spouse or maybe a relative or friend who can help you with this, that is the direction you go in, guys, because I'll be totally honest with you. Listing that many items in a month, I think we've hit it a couple months. That is tough. Not easy, I will promise you that. But it's also the point at which with $1,000 in revenue, you could conceivably hire someone to help you. You could conceivably hire someone at that point to take photographs, to do listings, to help with the sourcing. Whatever it is you think will be the best use of their time, you could do it at that point and consider, using some of that money. Now, that's going to cut into your profits for sure, but it's also going to help you grow, because the next level, when you go up, when you invest that, if you can find 1,000 items in a month, which like our friend Tiffany does down in South Carolina, now like the world is your oyster, because now you're going to go from having, just a few hundred listings to over 1,000 listings up, and your business is going to blow up to, a much higher level. You're going to be talking about, $4,000 to $5,000 a month in gross revenue. So I think, look, I'll be the first to say that I am not a super big fan of the bin strategy, of the yard sale strategy for cheap items. It's tough. I mean, well, I won't say it's tough. It's just a grind. It's not necessarily hard, but it's a grind. It takes time. It takes applying yourself over and over and over. And you definitely are going to feel like the grind nature of it. But it's like anything else. You're going to get better at it as you do it. You're going to be able to achieve it more easily as you go along. And you're going to find that that's going to improve your results too. And somebody in the chat just said, well, just buy $2 items that sell for 30 bucks. Well, what's interesting about that is you're not going to find as many items that are going to sell for 30 probably as you are for 15. Like, you could find items that sell for 15 bucks all day long. And just because you have to pay more for them doesn't necessarily mean that that you are necessarily, they're going to be worth more. Like in my case, for example, we buy a lot of jeans, but the jeans here in Charlotte are basically $5 plus tax. So at Goodwill's, for instance, and even at thrifts and so other thrifts, it's hard to find them cheaper and cheaper sometimes. Now, you can find them cheaper at the bins for sure, but they don't have the quantity that a store will have, or the quality, I would argue. So it's not as simple as to say, well, if I just spend more for the item, I can sell it for more. That equation doesn't always work, guys, because the same items here in Charlotte, I know, that we could find at the bins that would end up costing $1, if they were in the store regularly, would be $4 or $5 or even $7 or $10 in some cases. and they're not going to sell for any more just because we paid more for them. So it's not as simple as just saying buy more expensive items that will sell for more. That isn't always the case. And I would argue too that with eBay, with clothing, especially a lot of run-of-the-mill brands, I don't mean like your higher-end designer brands that are home runs, that a lot of your clothing brands that are run-of-the-mill, bread and butter sort of brands, they're not going to sell for huge amounts, but you can replicate your success with them over and over and over and over. So you don't have to think, I got to go out and find a bunch of items that'll sell for $50 or $100. You are going to find those for sure. We all do, and we do the car and happy dance when we do that. But I don't think that really is a model that you can easily build a business on and scale it very quickly. You can build a business on it for sure, but to do that quickly and to be able to ramp up very quickly, that's hard because it takes time to get the expertise. It takes longer to find those items because you might look through 200 items and find one, and I'm just making up that ratio. I don't know if that's a real ratio or not, but if you're going to only look for items that sell for 50 or $100 or some higher amount, you're just not going to find as many of them because other people are out there looking for them too, and there's competition. And, they're going to be looking too. And there's just not as many of them out there, I would argue. They're just a little bit narrower field, So I think that you can do this a lot of different ways. But if you want to very quickly take a small sum of money and ramp it up into a decent, income and revenue for eBay, it can be done. It can be done. You're really only going to need, with the model I gave you, 250, about 250 listings or so to achieve it, which is not a lot, really, to ramp up to. Obviously, you're going to have to buy a few hundred to get that. I think that you can do it fairly quickly if you're willing to put in the time and energy to do it. Now, is $1,000 a month the amount that you want to make? I don't know, but I think $1,000 a month for most people tends to be the point at which they start getting kind of excited about it. They're like, wow, I made $1,000 this month. Now, obviously you got your expenses and taxes and all that good stuff. And we didn't cover overhead and things like that. I mean, that's out there. A subscription if you decide to have an eBay store. I mean, there's other costs. We're not covering all that, guys, because that's going to be different for everybody. But I think that, and somebody's saying you need a place to store everything. Right. You might have to come up with a storage solution that you don't currently have. So you might have to spend some money on some shelves. But, housing 250 items, especially their clothing items, I mean, that doesn't take up that much room. Even if it was hanging, you're talking about, maybe a good-sized walk-in closet could handle all that. If they're in bins, you could get 20 items a lot of times in a bin, maybe 25, so 10, 12, 15 bins. There's different ways to do that. So I think that in a lot of cases, and maybe even more than that, depending on what you're getting, I think in a lot of cases you could do this model very, very quickly and ramp up a very tiny investment. I mean, I think $10 is, not much money at all, right? For most people, in most cases. And if you're not financially able to invest $10 in this business, I would argue it's probably not the right time for you to get into it. If you're that strapped for money, I would probably wait and use that for something else that's more important. But I think you could do it very quickly with this sort of model. I think if I had to do jeans with this model, I would, first of all, I'm going to pay more than $1 for them. That's for sure. I'm not going to be able to get my jean cost down to $1 very easily, at least not in my part of the country. Even $2 would be really tough because I'd have to catch, certain sales in other parts of this area that are not really economical. And to get up to that kind of volume would not be simple. However, jeans do tend to sell for a little bit more. I wouldn't want to do free shipping at $15 for jeans because they're going to cost like $6.30 to ship. So that's not going to work either. So if you had a different model, let's say you wanted to sell shoes with this model, but maybe your shoe cost was $5. You know, pare it down. Like obviously $10 is only going to buy 2 shoes if you're paying $5 a pair. If you can wait till you get to $50 and saved up and ready to go and invest, then you could buy 10 pair of shoes. And you might, I don't know if you would sell through 30% of your shoes in a month. I think it would be lower than that. I think it's only going to be maybe 20%. But you could start as low as maybe $50 with shoes. You could scale this number up. So whatever the average cost is for your item, think about, in your area, think about multiplying that times 10 to figure out what you kind of need to start with. So that way you can apply it to whatever you want to get into. Maybe you want to sell blazers. Like blazers here are $7.50, I think, in Goodwill's, for instance. So you would need $75 to buy 10 blazers. Now blazers are a little bit longer tail usually, so you're probably not going to get 30% sell-through in a month. You might only get 10% sell-through, but you might only sell one of them. But you know, keep that in mind. But guys, the big thing is, and I didn't mention this enough earlier, is if you can take the money that you start an eBay business with, and then as you make money in it, keep reinvesting, that is how businesses grow to be really large. If you're taking out huge amounts for living expenses, a salary, to pay people to do things for you that that you could do yourself potentially, it's so hard to grow. When you get to the end of the month and there's no more cash for inventory, you have to wait till something sells. I mean, you have to wait till something sells to grow your business. And you don't want to be in that position. And I've been in that position before. I think most of us have that have been in this game long enough. If you're doing it full time, it's tricky to pay yourself, which you need to do because you have bills and expenses and life, and still have money at the end of the day to grow your business so that you can go to the next level, whatever the next level is. So I hope that this was all helpful, and that I love to. Some of you guys are sharing some of your stories in what you've started with and so on, and I love hearing those, and definitely want to shout some of those out. And if you have questions or comments about this topic too, I'd be glad to comment on them or talk about them best I can. Sorry Karen is not with me. She is actually out picking up Ben to go to work, I think, actually. So he's going to his job. Let's see. Excuse me. I started with buying 400 DVDs for $100 and I've done okay, but starting to slow down on sales. Yeah, James, and that makes sense because you've sold through some of the better ones, the more desirable ones. But $400 for $100 for 400 DVDs is what, 25 cents a piece? That's a great price. Doesn't sound like you can really lose. I mean, if you're buying things for $1 or under, what is really your risk? You don't really have any risk there to speak of. But the Seam store said, my wife gave me $300 in 2008 and I'm still going. Wow, that sounds like a cool story, Seam. We would love to hear about that. How you started with $300 9 years ago and you haven't had to put more money in. I'm guessing from that. Ruby says, there's been so many changes since 2008, 2009. It's difficult to get restarted based on your topic today. I don't know about that, Ruby. I think it just depends on what you want to do. I mean, there's certain niches and areas, if you want to sell in those, it would be tough to break into, and margins are thin, and it's hard to be competitive. And there's others that there's not a lot of people in at all. So, I don't know. I guess it just really depends on what areas you're looking to sell in and kind of what your capital is up front. Obviously, guys, if you could start with more than $10, you can, you can buy more items up front, which is going to increase your revenue, right? So you're going to sell a few more and you're going to make some more revenue and it's going to help you grow faster. But I was trying to take really kind of a bargain low approach. About as low as I would ever want to go if I were starting this new. It'd be a cool experiment to just start another store and start it with $10 and see like what you could grow it to and not take any money out of it. Just reinvest that money back in. Actually, Luke and I have a video idea we're going to do. I don't want to give it away yet because we haven't fleshed it all out, but it's not exactly that, but it's kind of this idea about what things will sell for and how fast and what you can get for them. But I think there's a lot of like, there's like a lot of, what's the word? Conventional wisdom out there that's not really that conventional nor that wise about what things will sell for and how quickly. And, you know, you guys know on this channel, I'm a numbers guy. If you can show me the analysis, the data behind it to back it up, I believe it. If you can't, then I think it tends to be somewhat anecdotal, and it might be true, but I don't really know that it's true, and that's tough to operate in that environment when you don't know that something is true. Ruby wants to sell shoes and handbags. I mean, those are great markets. Those are great niches. I don't see any problem with that, Ruby. You know, you could do that easily. I think you just got to get started. Try to build up an inventory of 10. You know, let's see if the math works out for you, and you can sell through 2 or 3 of them in a month. Let's see what else. Any other questions? Just type the word question in the chat too if you have one. I'll do my best to answer it if it's answerable by me, which most are not. Do you know any good suppliers? Suppliers of what exactly? I'm not sure what you're looking for supply for. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to give you guys an update too, because Karin made me. We have been finishing up some inventory things. I don't know if you guys, about a month ago, we started kind of doing this inventory, and we kind of put it on the back burner. But we started doing this inventory, and we got all the jeans done, and then we kind of got sidetracked on some other things. But we will be finishing that up this week, and we're going to share, the idea is to share the results of that with you Friday. Let's just say there were some things I did not expect doing this inventory, and we'll refresh your memory about how we did it and what we, how we used the file exchange option on eBay to download our listings and what eBay said we had sold. I can tell you that just in general, we had some items that eBay said we had listed that were not listed. We had some items that we thought were listed that were not on eBay. We had some items on eBay that were listed twice, and we only have one of them. And that's just the things that we know about and we found so far. There was a lot of little things, like there were some things where we misspelled some titles and, didn't put a certain feature of an item in the listing title. Things like that. There were kind of smaller mistakes and errors, but there was a couple that it almost seemed like eBay must have had a glitch because they both had this, there was like 3 things that all had the same end date, and they had all sold previously and gotten relisted. I don't say those things to scare people. I'm just letting you know this. If you don't do an inventory every once in a while, and if you have hundreds and hundreds of items and you can't do an inventory very, very quickly, and you're just letting it fly, I can promise you, you have some mistakes on your end or eBay's end, and both. And those mistakes are costing you money. They're going to cost you opportunities. They're going to cost you some headaches, especially when somebody buys something that you don't have, or eBay has, eBay's relisted it and you didn't know it. I mean, that has happened to me a couple different times, at least, maybe 3 times now that I think about it. And, just keep that in mind, guys. Inventory is a really annoying, necessary thing. I hate doing it, to be honest with you. And it's time consuming, but at some point you have to take control of it and take some ownership. If you haven't done one in a long, long time, I would recommend you do it. At least get started, do it a chunk at a time. and, a fixture at a time, a room at a time, a closet at a time, a bin at a time, whatever it is you need to do, and compare what you have with what eBay says you have, or with what you don't have and eBay says you don't have. It's important, and you're hurting your business and your results if you don't do it. You're probably going to find out some things about your listing process and your inventory process that you didn't know. And the only way you can do that is to do an inventory. So there's my plug for inventory. eBay had me showing that item was out of stock, but someone was able to buy it. Luckily, the buyer decided to cancel. Yes, that has happened to me on a few occasions, and it's really annoying. There was just some weird things too. I transposed a sale one time. I said I'd sold one item when it was really the item right above it. And so, like, we had the item that we were not supposed to have, or by my record, and then vice versa, and I had to change. I mean, it was a bunch of stuff. So we'll talk more about it on Friday, and what we found through it. But suffice it to say, doing an inventory is a very eye-opening experience. At least it is for me. And I like to think I'm pretty particular and meticulous about doing things, but I still made plenty of mistakes. Marilyn says, I've been on eBay since February, and after the hype, my hopes are in this coming fourth quarter. I hope there's some truth to the hype and we all get rich. Yeah, I mean, Marilyn, I almost created a turtle with $1 on its back for this video as a thumbnail, because honestly, there is no get rich quick. I mean, even if you're grossing $1,000 a month in eBay sales, I don't think by most people's definition you're rich. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint for the most part. There's no reason for it to be a sprint, and most people are not going to have the time and energy to make it into a sprint. And you're just not going to sell through on a lot of things quick enough to do that unless you got a lot of capital and can go super deep into items and just deal with small margins. And that's not the case for most of us. Most of us want to, we want a healthy margin, and we can't afford a single-digit margin if we're not turning a lot of volume. It just makes a lot of things not profitable to sell if your margin's 6%, for instance. I mean, it just doesn't make sense unless you're selling a really high dollar item where it's actually a lot of dollars. Let's see. What else we got here? What about the eBay fees? And Mo asks, which is better, selling your personal website or eBay? Well, eBay. I mean, you're going to sell more. You're going to get in front of more buyers. Now, your personal website has advantages that you control it, and you don't have to worry about getting suspended and things like that. So there is that fact that I think is really great about a person. You can do both. You don't have to choose. You could even sell on your person. A lot of people have done this, Mo, and this is a great idea if you want to go this route. You can create a website and list your eBay listings on your website. And you can start building traffic to your website, and when someone clicks on an item, it takes them to the eBay listing, and they can buy it through eBay. Then over time, you can slowly start transitioning to having more and more of your items just on your website, so you can avoid the eBay fees and so on. That you pocket that difference. So that's you can have some e-commerce fees, depending on how you have your website set up. But it's a great idea. But you kind of need to build that traffic coming to your site to justify that. If you started out that way, I don't think you would be very successful, because no one knows about your website. They don't know how to get to you. You're just not going to get the kind of traffic that a huge e-commerce website like eBay is going to get. So you're just not going to get your items in front of enough buyers. But that is a way to start building traffic to your website. I think you can still do that. If you can't, somebody let me know in the chat. But as far as I know, you can still link from your website to your eBay listing, and then over time start transitioning to just having your item listed on just your website. Let's see here. Other questions. I thought defects were forever. No, I think they do drop off, right? Somebody can correct me on that. Sarah was asking about it. I actually am not sure. I like to balance my inventory in April after the fourth and first quarter of blown stuff out. That's a great practice, a seam store. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. You've got less items. It's less to count. It's less to go through. That actually makes a lot. We had started doing it in August, and we just got sidetracked on other projects and things, and should have finished it then, but it's going to be finished here this week, so I'm looking forward to it. Work, part of my get rich slow scheme. Yeah, it's true. Let's see. Integration. Is it just me? My comments are not posting. DJ, everyone else's comments are posting. Would you recommend that new sellers go into clothing? Yes, King of Thrift. I probably would, only for the simple fact to start. It's an easy way to get started. Clothing is plentiful for a lot of people in a lot of areas, and you can get it cheaply. It's also fairly easy to store, as well as fairly easy to photograph. There are some exceptions. It's fairly easy to pack and ship as well. So I think clothing represents a great way to get started on eBay for all those reasons. You certainly don't have to, but it's not capital intensive. I mean, for $100, if you got the right clothing sources, you could go out and, like we said in the title of this video, you could have 100 items to sell for that $100 potentially. And it'd be hard to do that in many other fields. And that 100 items could generate $1,500 in sales, given the title of the video, right? Over time, it's not going to do it right away, but it's going to, over time, it's going to do that. So going into clothing for new sellers, I think is really smart. Even if you don't end up staying there for very long and you kind of learn the platform, you get some revenue and some sales under your belt, you understand how to interact with customers and what their expectations are, and then you can apply that to whatever other niches you decide to go into. I would also always recommend to somebody that if you're looking for a niche or an area to start selling on eBay, sell on one that you know something about. Maybe you've worked in it before, maybe you run another business, you have another business. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he has a lawn care business, and he was talking about eBay. And I said, man, you should sell lawnmower parts, things for like weed eaters, like equipment that you know stuff about. You know if it works or not. You know what the great brands are. I mean, that kind of stuff would be killer. And people, you're going to know a lot about it. You're going to know if it's valuable or not very quickly. You're going to know how to ship it because you know about how big it is and how much it weighs. And you're going to know what's the quality items and brands and what aren't. So it would be a great niche for him to potentially go in. I think you should always do that, no matter what field you're in. If you can make it work, or maybe one you did before, you're probably more likely to be passionate about it too, because you've got interest in it. And if you've got interest in it and you have knowledge, you're going to probably be more successful in it, which is going to keep your passion ignited, just so that you'll keep wanting to do well in that area. So, but clothing is a great way to get started for a lot of sellers. A lot of eBay sellers have done that. Oh, James says, I backed out of clothing because I sold female dress shirts as male a couple times by accident. Yeah, buttons. Usually the buttons are on the right for men and the left for women, for the most part. Clothing is a hustle. Yeah, I mean, it is to a point. Sent a lawnmower belt to Guam last month. I know, right? I mean, it's the things that people still need are always going to represent opportunity. I mean, do we really believe yards are going to quit needing to be mowed anytime soon, or weed-eated, or landscaped? Not likely. So, like, those areas are going to be viable for a while, for the foreseeable future. Not everybody's going to want to live in the city or live, in an apartment or townhome or high rise. And even there, you have lawn services who are going to need, your expertise and your parts. So yeah, anything like that that has sustainability like that is always a great niche to go into as well. DQ says, question, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. I just started listing without a store. Should I have a store? Would a store increase my sales? No. A store would not necessarily increase your sales. I would start without a store, honestly. You don't need the subscription cost to start with if you can help it, until you start to grow and get some, make sure eBay is worth it for you. It's just an added expense that you don't need in the beginning. Now, after 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, you've gotten your feet wet and you're deciding if you want to scale your business up and maybe you can benefit from like free insertion fees that stores give you and the ability to mark things down, then maybe you can go the store route. But I wouldn't start with it. I just don't think it's really necessary. And unless somebody's got some evidence somewhere, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that it helps your sales. So it's not going to impact your bottom line, but it's certainly going to take some money out of your pocket. And it's just one more thing to navigate. Now, if you don't mind paying the subscription cost, go for it. Knock yourself out. But I wouldn't do it right off the bat. Some people are saying they would recommend new sellers listings they have around the house. Always a great way to get started. If you have some things, that's for sure. You've already invested, your cost in buying them. So why not get some money back out of them? And you know the history of the item. You know if there's any problems with it. Sure, that's a great way to get started as well. And you can do that with clothing. Decide if you like selling clothing or not, because you probably have some clothing sitting around the house that you don't need or don't wear anymore. Doesn't fit, whatever. Let's see. Lots of people here. Thank you guys so much we've got like 70 people in the chat. Please hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. I do appreciate it. And we're closing on 10,000 subscribers, guys. So if you wouldn't mind sharing these videos, if you find one that you think you really like and it would be really helpful for somebody else, hey, share the video with them. And, I'm trying to hit this 10,000 number, and we're pretty close. We're about 40 away, so hopefully it'll happen in the next few days. And I do appreciate it. And thanks for all you guys being part of this community. Let's see what other questions there is. Yeah, somebody said they went to an Amazon class and the trainer said, think of something everyone always needs and sell it. It's true. It's true. I mean, people are going to always need certain things, and that speaks to clothing, speaks to shoes, speaks to food, speaks to, things around the house that you need. And those can be opportunities for sure. For sure. What's your opinion on drop shipping or online clearance? I don't have any real experience with drop shipping. I know that if you can find the right suppliers, it can definitely be profitable. You're basically acting like a middleman, and not having to buy inventory until someone actually buys it, and then you're having a third party ship it to them. Now that all presupposes that person, the company you're working with or group, that they have the item in stock and they can get it to the people in a reasonable amount of time, the time frame that you've promised the customer, because it's your selling account that's at risk here if your drop shipping supplier is not able to fulfill the order. So you've got to be very careful who you pick to be in business with. You definitely can get in and over your head very quickly with drop shipping, and if you end up partnering up with kind of a bad one or a sketchy one, they're not going to meet the requirements, and your account's going to suffer for it. But there's also people who have become millionaires doing it, so it's not a bad method. It's just you've got to do your due diligence and homework. Excuse me. Jason, are your sales extremely low now? Yeah, they really are, and it's my fault. Karn and I, excuse me, we have been working on other things and projects and some stuff like in our personal lives that have gone on that have taken up all of our time and energy, and we've just not devoted as much to listing and building our business right now on eBay. So no one to blame but ourselves, no one to blame but me. And, that has definitely hurt my sales. I've definitely not been pumping out the listings like I'd hoped to be. So, but, we have some things here to list. We have some inventory we can put up, and we're looking to, make some inroads on that over the next few weeks. So hopefully we'll pick up. How many items per week do you list on average? Yeah. Not a lot right now, that's for sure. We were averaging more like around I don't know, like 60 to 75 maybe some weeks. I think we got up over, I think we've had some weeks where we've done over 100. But Karn does not, Karn and I do not list together and photograph and things together. And that, like, she's kind of gotten pulled away to some other things too. And losing that connection has definitely hurt my productivity. And I'm not making an excuse for that. I just haven't adjusted to it. And so, there's only 168 hours in a week, right, guys? And we struggle to fill them just like you do. Or we struggle to fit everything in just like you do. And you get to pick, what you spend each hour, each minute doing. But that means you're saying no to all these other things. And we have definitely not spent the time listing or building the eBay business like we were, and that's totally on us. So no blame towards eBay or anything like that. Totally on me, and I own it. Let's see. I'll say it since Karn isn't here to smash the like button. That's right. That's exactly right. Do you think promoted sales have anything to do with it? Lindy was just speaking on about it in case he was saying how slow things are. I don't know, Adam. I mean, you can beat yourself up over this, how slow or fast sales are. It's funny, too, because you never really see people when sales are going really well. They come on and say, man, this is very concerning. My sales are moving very quickly. I'm selling a lot. My revenue is going through the roof. I just don't know what to do about all this. It feels like something's weird going on at eBay. I don't understand it. How can this be? Because it's a good result, And so we don't tend to second guess ourselves when things are going really, really well. But when they're going poorly, we do tend to second guess. And we start second guessing eBay or Amazon or whatever platform you're on. And the reality is, for most of us, just, consistent listing, have enough listings up, getting our listings right, our keywords, our titles, our photos, our pricing, it's going to give us the best results we can. And the rest of it's out of our hands. We just don't control how many people come to eBay and how many people see our listing other than what I just said you can control. And the more time you spend worrying about eBay and what they're doing, the less time you're focusing on what you can do and how you can improve. And if it comes to a point where you feel like eBay is just not working for you, rather than sit there and try to figure out all the reasons why eBay is screwing up, go do something else. Find another avenue, sell on another platform, go in a whole different direction. Like someone was talking about earlier, sell on their website. I just think that you don't have to spend all this time and energy on, how eBay is screwing up. I just think it's kind of wasted energy. I don't know what we get from it. And I know it's an easy trap to fall into, and I've fallen into it as well. But I just don't get too bent out of shape about it. And I guess it's nice to commiserate too. We can all get together and, sit around the campfire and talk about our crappy sales sometimes. But what does that really do for us? I don't know. I guess we need to vent. Maybe there's some value in that. But ultimately, you just want to look within and figure out, all right, what can I do to improve the situation? If I feel like I'm doing, pretty well or as good as I can do, maybe I need to improve some other situation. So, is a white background required for photos? I don't think it's required, but I would probably do it for most things, Sean, just because it's going to be less distracting for the buyer. I just look at it, guys, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel with a lot of this stuff. If major clothing manufacturers and people who put together catalogs and websites, if they take a lot of their backgrounds and use them a certain way, you can bet they've done market research. You get the value of their research without spending the money to get it. That's shown that their product looks more attractive with certain things in the background than it does with others. So why would you go against that? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, why not take advantage of what these multi-billion-dollar companies have already learned and use that to your advantage to help your business and your listings and your photos and your items? I just think that's always a smart thing to do. Anytime you can take advantage of free market research that you know works, do it and use it. Yeah, lots of stuff about markdowns and promoted listings and so on. I don't sell on Poshmark, King of Thrift, so I'm not the right person to ask about it. I literally don't have any opinion about it because I don't know anything about it really. I just don't have any knowledge of it. I feel like I would be just telling you, I would just be talking to hear myself talk, and it would not bring you any sort of value. Unfortunately, so pure honesty, right? Let's see, man. All right, guys. Well, look, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Thank you so much for coming out. Please hit the like button or consider subscribing. There's lots of stuff down in the show notes below in the description. Lots of helpful links to all kinds of stuff that'll help out the show and help out this channel, and I do appreciate it, you guys. Also, consider sharing this video with somebody. I'm trying to hit that 10,000 subscriber mark, and we're going to get there. So I'm excited about it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you back here on Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This is Prof Sales saying good sales.